So I'll tell you the story about this one. I got told about a farm in central west New South Wales that had literally paddocks full of cars. Now I was a little bit slow on the uptake of this one. A lot of the older stuff that I'd normally pick on had already been sold, so I thought I'd do something completely different. This one is a 1995 VS Commodore. It was roughly the era that I was doing my apprenticeship, and so it felt very familiar. And when I opened the door, it wasn't butchered, it wasn't chopped up. It really looked like somebody had just driven it into the spot, turned the key off and walked away. It's obviously been sitting in the paddock for a while because it had the usual rats' nests and burrs and long grass under the engine base. And there wasn't really anything good to report when I opened the boot. It was just full of junk and weeds and rat turds. But the car is way too good to be left there in the paddock. I actually bought 3 cars that day, but I only had 2 days to get them out of there. And it wasn't just around the corner from home, so it was a bit of a cannonball run to and from getting them out. So I didn't have a lot of time up my sleeve. It was pretty much just winch it onto the trailer, get it out of there, go back for the other ones, and I guess that's where we'll pick up. So get comfy, grab a beer, it's a long one. I'm not 100% sure how long it's been there, but it was long enough. All that was in the boot, but we've dragged her out. Let's have a little bit better look around it. At first glance, it's pretty neat, and I didn't actually realise I had a set of alloy wheels on it. I couldn't see for the grass, but that's a plus. Vacationer. And this side's locked. The top panels are shot in the paint, the top of the bar, but the rest of the car's pretty good. I think I've already got a plan for it, and it's not to go too crazy. Just maybe drop it down, but maybe fix the paint. We'll see. If it is just a battery and some fuel and it wants to go, that'll give me a lot of time to do a lot more stuff with it. Like that. Righto, let's hitch him up. It's getting late. I've got to get out of here. So this is not my normal style of car. I'm usually into the 60s and 70s stuff, and where I went to get this one, there was hundreds of cars, but a lot of them had already been, they had sold written on them. So I thought I'd do something a little bit different. I bought 3 cars, and I've got a bit of a thank you to Pete for sending me pictures, Dave for taking me out there, and Matt for selling me the cars. But I bought the 3 and had to get them out of there quick. I didn't have a lot of time. And I was walking around looking for something a little bit different, and I kept coming back to this one because it felt familiar. And the reason it felt familiar is I did my apprenticeship as a spray painter in this era. This is a 95 model, and I was an apprentice painter in those years, so I painted a lot of these cars. That's what we were working on basically throughout my apprenticeship. The fact that I came back to it a couple of times obviously told me I wanted to do something with it, and it was nice and cheap. But take a look at this. It's just your basic vacationer, but these seat covers have definitely got to go. But here's where the good news was. Handbook. Look at that. Dates. What was done. Mate, somebody loved on this thing. Right up to the 11th 2016, and I actually looked up the rego number and it was last registered in 2017. Well, it ran out of rego in 2017, so that was actually its last rego. But check that out, that's the original glove box key. It's got a spare key and keypad, and just not hacked up. A little bit of wear there on the AC button, but it's just not torn apart. 234,000 Ks. I'd say it was an older owner by the dash mat and the NRMA sticker in the window, but we'll see what if we can't do something with it. And the mats are a bit of a giveaway. The seat covers, I just think it's going to clean up nice is what I'm getting at. Engine bay's full of burrs, but it's complete. And I'm literally going to go for the throat on this one and just chuck a battery in it and see where we get. But I wonder if there's any parts in the boot that might give me an idea if there's something wrong with it, or was it parked for a reason. As I said, last registered 11th month, 11th month 17 it ran out, but there's no parts in the boot. There is a lot of, I know, those burry things and cereal boxes, and it stinks like rats. But it's funny how they didn't get inside. I'm actually glad they didn't get inside, but let's just forget we were ever in here and just shut that back down for now. I'll have that. Right, I'll get a battery. And this one's the polar opposite of last episode, which the Pacer was parked for 46 years, one owner, really collectible car. These are everywhere, but can we make a, I don't know, really cheap daily driver out of it? It's kind of cool. I'm probably reliving my youth a little in the fact that I've got ideas we want to paint this thing. Because if you look at the outside, the sides are pretty good, but like most middle 90s Commodores, the tops of the bonnet, the roof and the boot are all shot. That's probably not as bad as the roof, but being super familiar with painting these as an apprentice, I'm sort of keen to do something about that, because I think it'll clean up really good if it's just glossy down the sides. It's not dented that bad. There's a couple of marks there, but it's not terrible. So if we can buff up the sides here, paint the top panels, it'll be awesome. I just vacuumed a few of those burrs out because I don't want to cultivate my amazing lawn, but it's now starting to rain on me. So we might get this thing in the shed. Yep, it's actually going to piss on me. Well, that escalated quick. But anyway, it'll probably clear up now. But we're in the shed. It does look a lot better with a bit of a shine on it, but we'll get to that. For now, throw the battery in, see what we've got dash lights wise, and go from there. And I've probably shot myself in the foot by saying this one looks like you could just throw a battery and fuel at it and it'll run. But anyway, I guess we'll take one step at a time and figure that out. First one is dash lights. And I was in a bit of a hurry. I had to get the 3 cars out of there in 2 days. We've got a lot of clicking going on, that's for sure. I just hope it doesn't spark up, because there's plenty that it can catch fire on here. But I got them around the right way. Yep, that would be a rookie error, wouldn't it? You can hear it doing stuff. Don't know what stuff, but it's doing stuff. So I can hear relays or something powering up. Everything kind of looks like it's there, except maybe if there was one in the end there, but I should have a look at those receipts and see if it gives me any indication if there was something wrong with it. Well, the oil's not filthy and black. Just have a browse through those receipts again. So May 13, replace differential assembly, bloody hell. Replace rear shock absorbers. Automatic trans service. Replace both front struts. Geez, somebody looked at recharge aircon. Replace fuel pump assembly. September 13, November 13, replace sensor crank angle. Thermostat, top radiator hose, muffler. We've got a new muffler. Water pump. Heater, fan motor. Jesus, another service in 16. That actually worries me. Does it worry me? 3 years between trans services. Was there a trans issue developing? I don't know. Guess we'll find out. Wheel alignment front in 16. Oh well. There's nothing that jumps out at me as obvious there. Oh. We've got dash lights. I must have the key on already. So that explains the relay doing relay things. Obviously I had to unlock the steering wheel to push it in the shed. Well, we've got dash lights everywhere there. Empty fuel. Either that or it doesn't work. We got lights. Got dash lights. Oh, dash is working. Dash is a bit loose actually. No radio, probably needs a code I suppose. Alright, is there any reason you can think of we shouldn't wind on it? I'll tell you what I can't hear. I can't hear a fuel pump, which doesn't shock me. Although in those receipts it said fuel pump assembly, these are really synonymous for doing pumps, so it doesn't shock me, and they're usually pretty loud. When you turn the key on, you should be able to hear it just behind the wheel there. Key on, and we've got nothing. So what I might do is jump under there and check if we've got power to the pump, and then we'll go about diagnosing if it's definitely a pump. No fire just yet, and I'm kind of glad because there's plenty to go up. I will say you don't need a hoist to do any of this shit, but it is going to make it easy to get to that wiring for the pump. It's happy to do it out there, but the weather has other plans. Let's see if this window will roll down, just so when it's up on the hoist I can actually just reach in and power him up. First of the power window models, I think. Ooh, it didn't sound happy, but it was just stuck. One window works. Two windows, that one sounds a bit sad though. No. No, that one will come good. How about this one? Yep. Excellent. So we've got 3 of the 4. That one just sounds like the seal is stuck. If it feels like I'm rushing a little bit on this one, I am, because the more time I spend on mechanicals, the less time I get with this paint, and I really want to do something with that paint. I'll just go up to there so I can still reach that key, but let's check this power. I just think first thing I might actually do is find out which one, if any, is fuel pump. No, none of them. Fuel pump, that guy there. Fuel pump relay, so we'll swap them over just in case it's a relay. Anything now? Dash lights, no noise. Alright, and I'll just have a look that there's not another fuse under here somewhere, but nothing there is really indicating fuel pump, is it? And it all looks pretty intact, but we have no All still got clicking, but nothing says fuel pump there, so that's got to be that only relay under the bonnet. Unless I'm missing one, but I guess we'll find that out. Let's check if we've got power at this pump. So here's the wiring for the pump. It just goes in the front of the tank there. I should be able to pick up if anything's coming to that. Just with a test light, we'll see. Maybe I need a better ground than that. How about a ground over here somewhere? Alright, so I'll just stick my test light in each of those pins and roll the key on and see if we're getting anything. Alright, key's on. We've got really dull power there. Being that dull, I'm sort of thinking that's more like fuel gauge than anything, but no, I've got no power there. I'll just have another look at those fuse boxes and all the rest of it. Okay, so I didn't look there. There it is right there, 15 amp fuel pump. So that would be that guy there. And he's perfectly okay. Let's see if we're getting... Actually, I'll leave that out and see if I'm getting power there. If I'm getting power here when I turn the key on, that would be a good indication. The thing with trying to check the power at the pump is it doesn't stay on. Like, you roll the key on, if I'm too slow to get under there, the pump comes on, primes the system, then goes off until you start it. So I could have been too slow getting under there, and maybe that's why I'm not seeing any power. I'm trying to think here as I talk. Get on there, for God's sake. Thank you. But if I can do it this way, oh, I've already got power there. Is the key on? The key is not on, but I've got power at the pump. Got power at the pump fuse. There, we have power there. So the fuse is good, so I'm going to go, yes, it's sending power to the pump. I'm just too slow by the time I roll the key on, get under there, go to jam it in. How could I do that? I could just ignore it and not worry and move on. Let's just ignore it. I'm going to go, yes, we're getting power to the pump. So there's one way I can test, is the computer doing computing things and we're just waiting on fuel, and that is, it's pretty redneck, but it works. Look at me getting all ahead of myself. I haven't even wound it yet. It'll wind. I don't like how that was galloping, but it's winding. I'll show you the redneck way to find out if the computer's working and we're just waiting on fuel. And that is, undo the intake and just act like the fuel system. Just add fuel. Let's put that there. So even though this is an EFI car, if you open the butterflies, or the throttle body, which cable is it? Get round here where I can see. Which cable are you? That one. Just add fuel. Even that little bit of fuel vapour, the same way you'd spray it down a carby, will make it cough and splutter, and if that way we know it's got spark. There you go. So that's all it is. We've just got a fuel issue. So I'll get on the phone and get a pump. That will be something that I'll be able to get straight away, because these pumps are through everything, all through Commodore models, heaps of other cars, so it'll be something they've got in stock. And in the meantime, I might start vacuuming up some of this crap in here, because if this actually fires, it's going to go everywhere. So we'll do that. Had to ring 2 stores, but I've got one. The other half is doing a mercy dash to town to grab me a pump now. I'll get this cleaned up by the time she gets back and we'll chuck a pump at it. That might not look much better, but it makes me feel a hell of a lot better. Get rid of all the rat's nests and whatever else. So my pump's about 20 minutes away, so we'll get him up and we'll start pulling that fuel pump out. In a funny way, I'm nervous. Those receipts in the glove box just go, well, somebody loved on this, so everything's itemised, but why did it have a differential? How old was it then? 11, wasn't it? 2011. So what's that, 95 to 16 years. That doesn't seem very old for having a diff. Has it done a lot of heavy towing? It's got a tow bar. Is that why the transmission's had 2 services in 3 years? Oh, it is the vacationer, so you would be towing the caravan. Ooh, vacation. And the pump's just these 2 lines, and then all these little hex head bolts around the outside of the pump housing there, and we'll pull him out. I'm just hoping the fuel gauge is accurate, because if the fuel gauge is accurate and it's empty, and I got the wrong socket, damn it. But if the fuel gauge is empty, I won't have fuel gushing out here when I try to remove that pump. Okay, shit just got weird. That is an aftermarket control arm. What was this car up to? I know what it was up to. It was up to storing the daddy long legses. Look at them. There's a heap of them. It's got all the daddies. But that is not stock. I'd like to think they're both sides. Yes, they're both sides. And that's that new muffler that was on the receipts from 16. So she's had some love. Is that a towing thing? You towing gurus, would you do that if you were towing? I wonder if that's the correct opinion angle when it's loaded or something like that. Anyway, get on with the pump, mate. Stop talking and get into it. Jesus. Oh, I didn't like the colour of that. That was red. Yeah, you can't really see. Oh, and it stinks. It stinks bad. Okay, we might have just come across our first issue. Rotten fuel. Doesn't shock me though, of course. All the daddy long legs are pissed off. They're going everywhere. They don't like the stink of the fuel either. Don't blame me, boys. Get out of here, quick. Oh, is that not undone properly or what? Yeah, that's strong. I wish you could smell that. That is pretty strong, which means it's pretty bad. The best bit is it's getting all over me, so I'll be able to reek of it all day. That's the return line, I think, that's leaking. So I'm just trying to get the delivery line off now. Oh. Actually, I don't know which is which. I think I just made that up. Anyway, one of them does one thing and one does the other thing. I can't really describe what that stinks like, and if I could say something funny about it, I probably would, but I can't. It just stinks. I can't think what it smells like. It just smells. Like varnish, maybe? Like wood varnish or something like that. Not pleasant. It's really, really not pleasant. And no matter how much I try to get away from it, it's just dripping on me more. Now I'm really hoping it's not full of fuel. It's got something in it. I'm just thinking out loud, but I should check the colour of that transmission fluid. It worries me that a diff, a lot of transmission servicing, control arms like it's done a heap of towing. It's only a little motor, little V6. But then again, the towing capacity on these things would have been vastly different to what we expect the towing capacity on modern cars. It wasn't like 3.5 tonne. This would have had like 1800, maybe 2 tonne towing capacity. So I'm probably panicking for nothing. Well, there's no fuel gushing out, so that's a positive. I'm I'm not really liking the look of what's coming so far though. Okay, so I failed miserably. I thought that the pump was part of the sender on these guys. It is not. How can I tell? Because it's not. I just got it out and it's not. So I'm going to drop the tank down. The pump must be separate coming in from the top. I swear to God I've done one of these before and you pulled the sender and it was in part of the sender. Nope, not right. Alright, step 2, let's drop down this tank. Nah, I'm right. I just wasn't holding my mouth right. It's there. It's exactly what I thought, but I thought it went in horizontally. It's actually around the corner, so it's just a matter. I'll show you. Stop talking. I'll show you. If you see there, I could see the float coming. I'm like, where is it? But there it is there. You can see the pump there. So I'm just being a bit of a sook. I've got to get this out, this arm, and then I'll be right. Yeah, I just second guessing myself. I thought I had it wrong. I'll just fiddle around so I can get this out and we'll get this pump out. Struggling. Here we go, here we bloody go. And the fuel level is right there, so how lucky was that? There's our pump. Come on. Yuck. That sock looks terrible. Oh, that's hard. What's that? It all needs a good clean, put it that way. I've got to tell you though, look inside that tank. I don't know if you can see in there, but that is pretty bloody good. The fuel's a terrible colour, but I can't see any rust at all. So I'll stop looking in case I see some. You probably have to give me 20 minutes to figure out how this thing comes apart. But that's the new pump. I guess if I take a look at it, I'll probably figure it out a lot quicker, won't I? Probably just clips on. Yeah, it looks like just a push-on fitting. Alright, let's stop talking and get that done. They gave me another pigtail too. Oh, and that screen, that's good. Somebody has preempted its shittiness and given me a new filter. That's excellent. That's actually quite a good kit, really. If I can avoid it, I was going to say I'm going to dodge replacing that pigtail, but what if that's the whole issue? Alright, what if I just do this, plug that back into the car, turn the key on to see if I can hear anything. That'll tell me if the pigtail's alright. Sorry, pigtail, that thing. They call my pigtail. I don't know why. Maybe because it's curly? I don't know. But anyway, that's a wiring harness pigtail. So I'll plug this in, see if we can get it to work. And yes, I know this is completely, utterly redneck, but if I hit the key, you tell me if that makes noise. I could hear it from up here. So that pigtail's fine, so I'm just going to swap this pump out. It shocks me there's all these rubber bits and pieces submerged in the fuel tank, but anyway, who am I to judge? So we'll whack this back together. I think that just pushes on. There's little tabs in there, see? And I was thinking they must, like a light globe, you put it in and twist it. I reckon it just pushes on, so I'm just gonna give it a hit. I reckon I'm right. All that for that. Anyway, and we are ready to go back in, all bar a little bit of cleaning. I'm going to give that a bit of a clean and we'll bang him back in. They've got a new gasket. Might have been easy to put that on before I put that screen on, I think. No, it's good to go. mint, clean him up, we're in. And you know exactly how much I cleaned that up. Nope, not at all. That's what fuel filters are for, right? Why was that so much easier going in? Alright, pump is back in. Let's see if we can get fuel up the front and disconnect the line. Actually, scratch that. I'm not going to disconnect the line. What I was going to say is I'll disconnect the line, put some fresh fuel in it and try and flush the line out. Because it's going to have that same reddy brown crappy fuel that was in that return or delivery line, probably through the fuel lines. If I can't find a line easily, I'm just going to add fuel and just cycle the key a few times so it pushes the fresher fuel and just cycles the bad fuel back around into the tank and dilutes it, hopefully. I'll look for a line button. I thought there might have been a fuel line coming up the back here somewhere, or heading over here somewhere, but it's all under engine covers. So I'm going to get cheeky and just forget about it, reconnect that up, and then cycle that fuel pump through a few times with some fresh fuel, and just see if there is any dirty fuel in it. It just cycles it back to the tank and dilutes it. I guess I'm going to shortcut it because that fuel, as much as it stinks and it's a bit off coloured, it hadn't gone thick. Sometimes when fuel's unleaded fuel, when it's old enough, it actually starts to thicken up and go almost syrupy. And it hadn't. It still has the same viscosity that fuel should have. Does that make sense? No, probably not. Anyway, I'm putting fuel in it, cycle the key. I'm just going to hit it. I want to spend more time on the paint, so I'm shortcutting everything I can. Just come on. And then I find it's got a fried transmission and we end up swapping a gearbox. But anyway. Let's see if the fuel gauge works now. Still got no fuel gauge. But listen. See how you hear how it only goes for a short time? That's what I was saying about I was trying to test for power there, but I wasn't quick enough to get from here under there with my test light. If you listen, try and count how long that takes. Ready? On. And it's off. So not long. And in actual fact, you can hear it better up here. If you listen here, you can hear the relay clicking on and off when the pump stops. So I'll cycle it through half a dozen times, add some fuel and just see if it'll kick. Just wind it. Reckon that's about 6 cycles through, so that'll hopefully push some fresh fuel into the rails at least, but the injectors will be our concern. If we have to pull the injectors to clean them, we will. Ready? Better than nothing. I'm going to add some fuel just to give it a kickstart. And I might open the throttle a bit just to see if we can get that injector to open and let some fuel through. Wants to. I'll just knock this engine cover off and see how easy it is to get the injectors. We might pull the injectors. I might get lazy and not pull the injectors too, but if I pull the injectors I can flush them out and then go back, but we'll see. Yep, they're hard, very hard. Intake off to get to the injectors, so I don't want to do that. So I'm actually going to persevere for a little second, just dumping fuel in it. What can I smell burning? Smell smoke. Is it in here or is it outside? Got me worried, got me spooked. I'm going to persevere for a little minute. That's where I can smell the burning. When I open the throttle body, I can smell it. That's not a bad thing. It should be burning in there. I wonder if there's a rodent's nest or something in there. Maybe it's in the exhaust. We're getting better. I reckon if I do that 67 more times, we'll be fine. So all I'm doing is opening the throttle body and just throwing a bit of fuel in there. Now the problem will be it's probably running down into one cylinder, but anyway, I'll be happy with one at this point. Come on. It's still got a mist to it. It's that quiet you can barely hear it running. You can see it's missing like crazy instead of jumping. But I'll just give it a second to warm up. I don't hear any devastating rattles or anything like that. Yeah, you can hear it missing really bad. I think it's time to open a window though. I'm just going to stand back and just let it idle away for a second, maybe give it a couple of taps on the throttle, just to see if I can get, if those injectors are a little bit blocked, see if we can get a little bit of fuel coming through them. Once it comes through, they'll be right. So we've got gears, but we've also got a little bit of smoke, so I'll find out what that is. There's no real blow by or anything yet, anyway. Sometimes if they've got head gasket issues or anything like that, you can see bubbles coming out from pressurising the cooling system, but that actually doesn't look too bad. So I think I'm just going to let it sit, just do its thing for a minute, get some heat. I might do that intake back up, maybe have a look for rats' nests in here. Pretty good. So good in fact, I'll put it back together. There's still a little mist to it, but it's actually sounding better already. Run some fluids through it. Let's run it for a bit and I know, see if it improves. You can just still hear it missing pretty bad, but I know it went forward before. Here we go. Ooh. What was that noise? It's only a rattle, but fuel gauge is working. It come good. Tacho works. We're just the cylinder down, that's all. Anyway, we'll go for a quick drive. Probably should have washed the screen first, shouldn't I? I just want to try and get some fuel through these injectors. I'll probably end up getting an injector cleaner and just dumping it in the whole tank and just running it. It's that quiet. I'll give it a bit of a rev, but it's that quiet I can't actually hear if it's improving or whether it's still missing. The power steering feels good though. I'll see if I can get it right around. Yep, power steering works mint. What if the aircon works? Is that pushing my point? Yeah, well no it doesn't, Michael. Oh, hang on, oh. Come on, aircon. Come on, aircon. This is a moment. It's a thing for me right now. Oh, mental note. Adjust it so it can actually get cold. I guess I'll have to wait and see. It's blowing air, but I don't think it's cold anyway. Ooh. I'll do that again. I'll throttle it on again and see if I can get one of those injectors to open and start spewing fuel. I've been driving it sort of 15 minutes now up and down the lane, and it feels more responsive, but I can't hear if it's still missing. So we'll go in and see if it's running on all 6. I've still got no temp gauge, but I just heard the fans cut in. I turned the aircon off I don't think it's doing anything, but I thought the fan might have cut out once I turned that off. But anyway, I think I can still hear a little miss. Yeah, you can still see it, it's shaking. So one cylinder's not quite happy. That's running on, well, 5, 6 when you start to give it a rev. What's the worst that could happen? We chuck a set of plugs or something in it later. They all feel like they're on there pretty good. I see that temp gauge has come up now. Still no temp. Anyway. Still just got that little miss. You never know, we might see if we can fix that with some plugs. I've got to get away from that fan so you can hear me. But that's now been sitting and idling for about 40 minutes. And that's almost clear. Is it? I think. I don't know if that's missing anymore. You won't be able to hear me, but it doesn't look like it's shaking as much now either. And there for a minute I did get a temp gauge. No, it's gone back to 0 again. I gotta tell you, it's not a bad start. It seems to have cleared up. That plug isn't missing, or that cylinder isn't missing, so I'm not going to do plugs straight away, but I think I'll spend the rest of the afternoon, rip the seat covers out, take the mats off, get the mud flaps off, and just get ready for tomorrow, because tomorrow is wash down and start with some paintwork, I think. Righto, I'll get into that. So we've just gone around it and pulled off what we don't need, like mud flaps, the seat covers. Did get a little carried away. I've pulled the seats out because as good as the seats were, they're still a little stained. So I'm going to pull those front seats as well, pressure clean them. Tomorrow will probably be nothing but pressure cleaning, to be honest, because I want to, if we're going to paint this, we're going to be masking inside of panels and that sort of stuff, and you don't want to be trying to mask over dirt like this all in the jams, so you really want to pressure clean hell out of everything. But headlight protectors are gone. I'll have to order an indicator, it's busted. The bar we might take off just so I can get it prepped. It's kind of shitty. Yeah, decent afternoon, just ripping and tearing into it. I'd like to get this primed by tomorrow afternoon, but the thing is, you want to get it washed down first. But I guess we'll get to that in the morning. Pretty good start, I guess, but like I said right from the start, I was kind of hoping it was that type of car you could throw a battery and fuel that, and it'd run, and sure enough we did a pump, but that was still pretty straightforward. The reason I wanted to be that simple is I want to spend more time on the body and paint, well, paint on this guy, and also the stance. We'll get to that. In the morning is just going to be pressure clean everything, the seats, the engine bay, everywhere inside of panels and that sort of thing, because if I'm starting to mask around this thing, whether it be to prime or to paint, you don't be trying to mask over dirt and grime and it won't stick. So, and that's also, it's going to affect your paintwork at the end if you're trying to mask over dirt and there's dirt blowing out when you're hitting it with compressed air. But we'll get to that. Tomorrow will be get it clean, and then step by step, if your car looks like this, if the top panels of your car are faded, your daily driver or whichever, we'll go through what product you can use, how you can do it yourself, maybe even a cost, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, it's a good start. We'll get stuck into it tomorrow. I'll see you in the morning. So we'll start ripping into this morning, and I washed it off last night just to get the dust off the panels that I'm going to buff. I'm going to concentrate on the adjacent panels to the ones we know that we're going to paint. Like, we're definitely doing the bonnet, the roof and the boot, and so this guy is going to be next to the fresh paint, so we want to buff both tops of the guards and both tops of the quarter panels to just make sure that we shouldn't be painting the quarter as well. There's a bit of a mark there that I'll see if it buffs out. If not, we might be coming down that quarter. So step one, wash the car off and buff it up to get a decent shine so you know where you're stopping. So I was ripping the mud flaps off yesterday, still on there, because I can't get the mud flap off because I can't get the wheel off. It's got a lock nut on it. I don't have the lock nut. Anyhow, I'll figure out how to get that off. One thing I will say is painting can be a can of worms. It's like, where do you stop? I'm going to stop with just make it presentable. I'm not redoing the whole side of the car and all the rest of it. This isn't going to be too bad, I can pretty much guarantee it. So we're really just going to make the rest of the car presentable, the top half of the car presentable, if this comes out. Yeah, it's going to be fine. I'll give you another one. That's the patch there that I was worried about. There's a bit of a discoloured patch, but here's one for you. If you haven't done much buffing, mask up around your black. Just like that. So when you're going along with your buff pad, if you happen to touch it, it's going to leave compound all through your black, and it doesn't come off easy. You'll have all these funny little marks. And if you haven't done a lot of buffing, stay away from wool pads. They heat up way too quick. Stick to a firm foam, and it doesn't really matter what sort of compound. Anything you'd buy from your auto parts store will be okay these days. So that's what we're trying to achieve, right? Just make it look as good as it could possibly look, so that way when we're clear to the edge of the boot, it doesn't look like old paint, new paint. It kind of blends in. But that's about as good as I'm going to get it. And that big faded patch there, that's actually buffed out. So we're going to stop at the top of that quarter. Anyway, I'll get to why we're doing that later. I'll just go through and buff the whole car and rip into it. Another thing when you're buffing, you see people just sort of sitting there and, you know, doing this one. Get your head where you can see what you're doing. You're not there for a particular time or anything like that. You're there for the finish to look right. Once it's right, move on. Like, get your head where you can see it. Look at the reflection of something over there and actually watch what you're doing. Here's what I mean. Look at those trees. Look at the reflection of them there, and you can see, if you just move up and down, you can see that's got a good gloss to it. Fine, move on. Don't keep pumping at it and eventually burning through. That's good enough. Righto, stop talking. Let's get into it. One thing I will say is don't polish it. Polish is paintwork's enemy. A lot of them contain silicon. So you can get your compound off with a rag like that, and we'll get to the washing side of it, but just don't polish it. You're just going to contaminate the panels that you're going to paint later. And so now I'm going to go around and remove everything that has to come off for painting. So it'll be the boot badge. I'm going to do the back bar, so we'll take the back bar off. That's all for there, nothing on the roof. And we're going to take the squirters out, the bonnet badge and the front bar will come off, so we'll rip them off. Badges are always good fun to get off without breaking them. I'm just using a body filler applicator, and hopefully you can slide it down around and take all the tape off, just like that. That one's actually just about falling off, but you're just cutting that tape, and then there's two little locating lugs. That's the original paint. For certain it's the original paint, because that's the original taping. Usually you can tell if they've got a big dob of urethane and they've been stuck back on, which is exactly what I'm going to do. But geez, good luck with the colour match. Look at the change of colour in that. Anyway, I'll clean that up and we'll work that out. See what I'm saying there? That's probably the original colour, and it's faded that much that that's now the colour it is. So I think whatever I get mixed up at the parts store, it's not going to match this. It's going to probably be closer to that. That's where colour matching becomes an issue when you're doing it at home yourself. However, I'll show you some techniques to try and blend the two colours together. And also, I think I've got some silver in the same sort of base coat. So if I need to, I can lighten it. But we'll see how we go. We'll get to that. It doesn't matter what you're pulling apart, whether it be bumpers or whatever, bag and tag. Label everything. Just saves you headaches down the track. We don't need headaches. Somebody saying head like that should ache. Whatever. Here's a hurdle I didn't expect, so I just went to fire it up to turn the wheel so I could get the front bumper off, and listen. That clunking, my friend, is either stuck valves or bent push rod. No, let me clarify that. That noise is either valve stuck open and it's jumped push rods out, or valve stuck closed and I now have bent push rods. Either way, I'm going to ignore it, finish what I'm doing, and then we'll start taking rocker covers off. The covers don't look that hard to get at. I think I'll be able to get them off without taking too much off. Maybe just the intake. We'll see. Either way, that's the sound of my soul dying just a tiny little bit. It was going so well. That's my fault, you know, because I said, oh, just a battery and fuel and it'll be right. Nope. Push rods, maybe. We'll see. Quit bitching. Stupid words. Why do you say stuff, Michael? So with pretty much everything disassembled, I'm actually going to spray the colour out now, the metallic blue, and just see how close or how bad it is. And that'll give me an idea of how far I need to stay in here, or whether I need to flick the colour over the tops of the guards to lose the colour match. But I'll explain more on that. We'll just spray out this colour. I'll get to the products I'm using in a minute. Velvet blue. Well, velvet blue, get in my gun. Let's see how not even close this is. And you're going to give it a couple of coats the same way you would the car, just to get coverage. That's over. I think the yellow was from the Land Cruiser or something like that. So I'll let that dry, give it a minute, and then it'll destroy my sole when it's not even close. Second coat, and you can actually manipulate the color with metallics. I'm trying to do two things at once. You can actually manipulate the color with metallics. For instance, if you put it on heavier, there's more base, if you like, so the metallic lays down flat, so it goes darker. If you put it on lighter, it'll stand up and become silverer. Is that a word? Silverer? More silver. Righto, so at first glance you go, it doesn't look that bad. Which it kind of doesn't, but when you get over here, look at it now, it's purple compared to the car anyway, which makes sense because look at the base coat colour. Or look at where the badge has been covering. See how much more purple it is? That's closer to the original colour. So the issue being, I want to put a little bit of green in it to take that red. Obviously blue and red makes purple, so blue and green is going to go more that colour, and I want a little bit of silver, because if you see straight down there, that's a bit, I'm going to say washed out. It's faded. More silver there. Thank you sunlight for coming out. About there you can see it needs to go lighter. Yeah, look at it there. Alright, so here's the problem. I've got very limited base coat colours. So here's the plan. I've got a little bit of green, that colour green, Everglade metallic, that's off the XY, and this silver I think was off an F250, but I'm going to halve my colour. It's like betting against yourself in case I cock it up. I've still got some colour. I'll give that a stir first. I won't quite halve it. Where's a rag, damn it? So that's if I completely stuff it up. I've always got to go back to the start. That's showing real faith in myself, isn't it? None at all. This is treacherous waters. For you guys that haven't done a lot of painting, probably don't go down this path. Now the one thing I will say is these are all exactly the same brand of base coat. Don't mix brands and mix acrylics with two packs. It doesn't work that way, all right? So this is all the same brand. And yes, I'm putting it through a strainer because it's been sitting for a while, and if I haven't stirred it, I've stirred it, but if I haven't stirred it properly, I don't want to go putting lumps all through it, so I'm just going to put about that much silver into it. And hopefully this will just take a little bit of that purple out of it. Turn it a little bit more green. Again, exactly the same brand of base coat. If I happen to go too green, I can always come back with that other bit that I tipped out. That's right, it's very hit and miss. But colour matching without a complete tinting system, it's a can of worms, but I'm up for the challenge. I'm ready to have a crack at it. I won't get it spot on, it just might get closer, just so I don't have to blend it as far. What do you mean? I'll show you. So how do you tell if the little bit you just put in made any difference? Well, that's easy. Lift him up like that, that's the colour you sprayed out, and drip it on there. Can you see any difference there? You can see a ring in the metallic, but that's, no, I can't see any difference. So I'm going to go a little bit more silver and a little bit more green. I'm going to go till I can see a bit of a difference. See if we can see a difference now. Yeah, see how that looks darker? the colour I just dribbled on. I nearly missed the damn thing then. Let's give that a spray and see how we go. And I'm just going to run a bit of thinners through the gun just to flush the last colour out. And yeah, I know I'm tipping it back in there, but I want to keep that thin as I'm running out. Just so you're flushing the last colour out completely, and we'll get our slightly modified colour in. So second spray out, it's definitely lighter, but it's still, that card's still very red compared to that guard, so it's not really washing the red out or the purple colour out as much as I'd like, but I don't want to keep going with it. Okay, so I'm going to pull up with the colour match there. The reason being that green isn't changing that flip tone, I guess you call it, where I put the card and I had that red tone. I was trying to turn it a little bit more green. It's not really changing it quick enough. The problem is when I'm adding that other colour, I'm adding other pearls and things as well. So we're just going to use a blending technique. I'm going to prime to where it needs to be, leave this section, and then only clear over that outer edge. So I'll bring the colour over, but don't actually change that colour there. Same with the bonnet. Won't matter so much in the roof because I've got all this area to lose the colour change. But in this bonnet it'll be the same. I'll just stay away from the outside edge with my colour, come across to about there, and then last coat I'll just flick one down the corner or down the edge, and then clear coat up to the edge there. I'm not going to come over the guards with the colour. So time to start sanding these panels now that I've got my horrendous colour, and I'll explain a little bit more about the blending the colour into the edges as we go, but for now I'm going to get it primed maybe to somewhere around that line. I think I'll grab those couple of blemishes as well, and then just stay away from this outer edge. The roof I can do the whole lot because I've got all that pillar to blend it in, and the back pillar. Same with the boot, I'll just stay away from this edge. So we'll get all through the guts here sanded, down through the back here sanded, and we'll get him masked up and primed. Okay, so a little bit on this. I'm using a 180 grit disc, just on an orbital sander, and we're not looking to get back to bare metal, right? We're just going to go back to what I call a stable base. That is clearly not a stable base. You can see I can actually scratch it off. So we're going to try and get, this is the clear, and you'll see when you've gone through it, look at the colour of dust. See, it'll be a white dust. Well, that's your clear. See, that's a blue dust. That's your base coat. So you're going through your clear into your base coat. That panel is extremely hot. I'm getting my shade. So the shade is just the lower the temperature of your panel, the hotter the panel, the more likely your paper is to clog up. And yes, I will put a mask on, but when I'm finished talking. So stop talking, get into it. So I hope you can see this, but I started in the worst area in the center, right? And you just want to start working your way out, and I'll show you what I'm looking for. What I mean by a stable base and an unstable base. See, I've got that, that's the original primer. It's gray, then you can see the base coat. Then you can see that shiny, jagged edge. That is still what I'd consider unstable. But as you move here, and you get out to where I've been sanding out this way, see how it's gone now? There's no shiny edge. You can just see the colors. There's the gray, there's the base coat, and then there's the clear, but no shiny edge. So I'm thinking that is, I'm going to go a little bit further, but I'm thinking that is far enough back out from the damaged area or the sunburned area to be called stable and to be able to prime over that. I will go a little harder on that one, I think, but you can clearly see the edge there where I haven't really touched yet, and especially see it there. So I'm just going to move my way out systematically around the edge of that damage. I'll do the whole front of the bonnet because the bonnet isn't going to meet anywhere else in colour, so I can paint right down the front here, paint the whole front bar. Oi, what's that? Check that out. The globe's just sitting in the bottom of the light. Anyway, that was random. So anyway, I'll just keep sanding away at that, and then I'll prime just outside of where we've sanded. Like I say, there is no need to go back to metal. In actual fact, I don't want to go back to metal because that primer is obviously still intact. There's no surface rust, no anything. I've just gone through there, but anyway, the factory primer is better, probably better than any primer I'll use, and if I expose metal, is it adding another dimension? Maybe. Anyway, I'll get back to it. Stop talking, for God's sake, get something done. So once you've got it sanded back to a point where you're happy you've gone far enough, and that little edge that I was showing you has disappeared, we're now going to go around our edges with 400 generally, but I didn't have any, so I'm going to use 320 and just do all the edges of where I'm going to prime, and the front edge of the bonnet, and along the edge of the screen where you couldn't quite get up to. And I got kind of lucky. I only found one little dent there and one little dent there, and that's the only dents I found in the whole roof, boot and bonnet. So I'll scuff that up, and then I'll put a little tiny bit of body filler in that guy and that guy, sand them off, sand our edges, and we're ready to start cleaning down to mask up. Rubbing your edges is super important because, let's face it, that's where it's going to peel. If you just sand it like that and you mask behind, the paint's going to get on the back of that edge. It's not going to stick, and if it starts peeling from there, it'll continue to peel. So edges are important, along the back edges and the front edge. And here where you've gone from your 180 grit, I'm going to use 320 and just come out past it. And the theory goes that you can prime right out to your 180 scratches and not worry about it coming out past where you haven't sanded. So you can now prime right out to about there, and then when we're hand rubbing the primer, you're going to go over the lot. And when you're putting body filler over paint, well, this is over primer, check your technical data sheets, the TDS. Most body fillers don't like going over paint. You can put it over paint, but they don't recommend it. However, this is a tiny little skim over a couple of little dents, and I'm using a 120 there first, and then I'm going to go back over it with a 240. Didn't even know what I had, but just to take the coarser scratches out. And then when it comes to priming, you're going to prime your repair patches first. So you do that patch and that patch, put one coat on them, then a coat over the lot. I'm going to get the car in primer first, then I'll worry about getting the bars done, because I really want this drying as soon as it can. Right, we'll get this prep salt down, start priming. Actually, I'll even go one step further with that. Never put body filler over acrylic lacquers. This is 2-pack, right? So this isn't, acrylic softens with heat. It's called a thermoplastic. So if you think the panel gets hot, the thermoplastic acrylic softens and moves, you got body filler on top. It's a low percentage play, you're never going to get away with it. 2-pack, and in such small amounts, you'll get away with it. So if it's looked after, you'll get away with it for a long time. So anyway, that one's done now as well. Let's get priming, get masking, prep salt, and get priming. When you're wax and grease removing or prep soling, you wipe him on, but then dry it off. Don't leave it on there. The residue from prep sol can actually be a contaminant, so you're drying it off. I can already see a couple little blemishes out on the edge there, but you've got to sort of know when to stop, because if I try and get right to the edge of this, then I'm going to do the quarter panel. Is there a blemish at the front of the quarter? So then you're doing the door, etc, etc. So it's going to be good enough for me. I think I'm going to run out of daylight to get these bars done today, but I just want to get some primer at least on the car. As far as products go, I'm using a 1K primer surfacer, not a primer filler. It doesn't matter what sort of gun you spray it from. That's a primer gun, like a 1.8 setup. That's a top coat gun, it's like a 1.4 setup. To be honest, it doesn't matter a frig. If you're thinning it out, you can put it through any old gun. You're only going to run into trouble if you're trying to spray primer fillers through too small a setup. So don't worry too much about setups. Just get it on there. And this I'm only going to thin as a surfacer. So I'll probably put 10% reducer or 10% thinners in it. I don't really need to fill anything. There's only those couple of little repairs. Why 1K? That's probably a question. Why 1K? I like 1K because it's flexible. For instance, I found a couple little dents on the roof. If you mix up 2-pack primer, it's 2-pack, 2-component hardener, or the catalyst and the primer itself. You mix it up, it's going hard. Say 40 minutes, it's starting to set. So if you mix up 2K primer, you put your first coat on that roof and went, there's another dent, you're committed. You've either got to finish priming it, let it dry for a couple of days, sand that, repair that. Or if you don't, you've got to wipe it all off, try and fix the dent before your primer goes hard. And there's wastage, I guess is my point, if you're not perfect at it. This guy, if I put on 1 coat and went, there's a dent there, you tip it back into the pot, it doesn't go hard, or back into the can, it doesn't go hard. To be honest, 20 minutes in the sun, you can give it a sand, bit of body filler, and you're probably still re-priming that afternoon. Just more flexible, more forgiving, and you can put 2-pack over it. Correction on that. Check your technical data sheets. I'm very technical data-y today on a TDS technical data sheets. Some 1Ks you can put enamel, acrylic, or 2-pack over it. If it says you can put acrylic or enamel over it, you're fine with 2-pack. Some don't like 2-pack top coats over it, so just check your TDS. I'm just going to tip a little bit in here and thin it out. I'm going to tip it everywhere, I know that. I think 1Ks were typically designed for spot repairs, not restorations and stuff. Well, essentially all that is a spot repair in the bonnet, spot repair in the roof, and spot repair in the boot. So it's perfect for this type of stuff is what I'm saying. And it's cheap. I think I got 4 litres of 1K primer for a little less than 2-litre kit of 2-pack primer. That was probably my most driving force of why to use it. So I've got my little body filler sections. I'm going to put 1 coat on them first so that they've got an extra coat over and above what we put on this guy. We'll probably put 3 light coats over the whole bonnet and roof, but that'll make a 4th just on those spots. So 1 coat on them first and then just straight into it. You'll see on the bonnet though, I've shortcut masked it. This is what I'm saying about leaving some colour to blend into so you can lose that colour difference if any. So I'm actually not going to prime up to that hard edge. You see that's doubled back, so that'll create what's called a soft edge, and I'll angle it that way. So it'll just be a furry little edge and I'll be able to sand that out. Starting on this side and just working my way to that side. The theory there is you're putting the primer only where you need it. Like my little spots. So I just checked my sprays right. You see you get a nice wide fan, and this is not a high fill or a high build primer. This is just a primer surface. I'm not looking to try and fill dents. It's literally just to stabilize what we're painting over. So don't try and put it all on in one go. Just try a nice light coat to start with. And you remember what I was saying before about coming out past your 180 scratches but stopping before your 320 scratches finished? Well, the 320 scratches I've masked along the edge of, and you see what I mean by a soft edge? It doesn't build a hard straight line. So the next one I'll just come just past that, just to wet that edge in. You're only going to cause yourself dramas if you start trying to dump it all on in one go. So just nice and even, It doesn't have to be thick. I know it was a lot of talk and I was trying to rush through that, but what I mean with the 1K versus 2-pack, when I'm finished whatever's left in this gun and I'm just in between coats now, I've got one more to go on the roof, I can just tip the excess straight back in the tin. There's no waste whatsoever. Even the reducer, you could clean out your gun and tip that back in. It's not contaminated because it's only cleaning primer out of your gun. With 2-pack you can't do that. If you mixed up 2 litres thinking, well that's going to take me 2 litres, and it only took you a litre, and you went, you've now wasted another litre. So it could be a cost thing as well. I like it because it's just easy to use. It dries quick, easy cleanup. Anyway, stop talking. One more coat, then I want to knock those rocker covers off and see what sort of damage, if any, I've done to that engine. I've had that before on the XE. It started, it ran, went really well. After a couple of heat cycles, just started jamming valves up. So I'm hoping that's all it is. Just a valve stuck closed will bend a push rod. A valve stuck open, I don't know, will it hit a piston? I don't know. I guess I'll find out. Anyway, one more coat and we'll have a look. That's the last coat done, so I'll wash the gun out, put a little bit of black guide coat in it, and coat that with the guide coat. Guide coat's probably the most important bit of the lot, because that's how you're going to see if you've missed any blemishes when you're sanding. So I'll rinse this out and we'll get into that. And all guide coat is exactly that. It gives you a guide as to when you're rubbing down, if you're missing scratches and things like that. Just a little bit of black like that. You see that speckly effect? When you're sanding that off, it'll show you where you haven't sanded. This is also kind of what I like about 1K. That's touch dry. That was like 15 minutes ago. So you can unmask and move the car. We can get under that bonnet. Alright, let's figure out what I've done underneath this rocket cover. I'll get that intake tube off, see if I can get that cover off, because it sounds like it's on this left hand side. I could be wrong, but I think these are non-metric. 3/8 fit it. That's crazy. But it is a Buick motor from memory, is it not? You Commodore guys, I'm pretty sure this is a Buick. Buick 3.8. I can see me having to remove the throttle body here. Well, I just found another job. That pipe is completely snapped through, and that's some sort of vacuum line, so that'll probably make a little difference to how it runs. Ready? This could be soul destroying. Nothing. None of them are loose. That makes no sense at all. That's tapping like it's a friggin' rocker, and that's they look fine. Maybe I'm just on the wrong side. Maybe it sounded like this side, but it isn't. Please don't let me take the alternator off. No, got it. Alright, that makes no sense whatsoever. None. Not 1 ounce. Don't get me wrong, I'm not disappointed that I haven't bent a push rod. So what's the noise then? So I just chucked the throttle body back on, and I'm going to try and sit here and wind it at the same time. See what I can hear. It makes no sense. It's as clear as day. As clear as day, for God's sake. I can't figure. It's not a stuck valve. Is it a stuck valve? Open. Am I just missing it? Oh. Found it. Stuck valve. Makes sense now. So there's probably more. That one's definitely stuck. That worked a treat. Oh, see him pop up then? And that's an intake valve. That annoys me because I could have prevented that. What I generally do if I think they're going to do that, or if they start sticking valves, is run the car, spray a heap of WD down the throttle body or the carburetor, and the air rushing in takes the WD with it. It coats the stem of the valve as it passes the valve on the way in, and it will stop that. So I wonder if that's the only one we've got. I'll just keep winding it over a little until I find the others rattling. It seemed like a lot of racket for just one valve though, didn't it? You stick again? Yep. There it is, up now. I'll give it another wind and see if it does it again. Alright, so we took a step backwards, but it seems okay. I'm going to WD all of them. Just to try and lube up those valve guides and everything, and then just smack it back together. I think it can only get better. I saw oil pressure already then, it was starting to flick out, so in the morning we might give it an oil change, before I start chucking oil everywhere. Actually, I will give it one more go. Oil or no oil, make sure. The fact that stalling could be the fact I've only got one bolt in that throttle body and I've got that vacuum line off, so I'm going to go, we're back to where we were yesterday. Chuck the rocker covers back on, put it back together and ignore it. It must be getting close to beer time. I just started putting that throttle body back on and went, oh hang on, why'd I have the throttle body off? To get the rocker cover off, or why haven't you put the rocker cover back on first? I don't know, I just didn't. So now I'll put the rocker cover back on. Kind of lucky it was just a valve sticking open, not like I said on the XE, I had valves sticking shut, and when they stick shut and the cam lifts the push rod, the valve doesn't open, it bends the push rod. So I'm kind of lucky I'm not chasing around after push rods right now. Why did I say that? Because now one will stick shut and I'll be chasing after push rods tomorrow. But anyway, you will say these words, won't you, Michael? And yes, it's very, very close to beer time. It's actually probably past beer time. Look at me looking for the sun like I know how to tell the time by the sun. No. Throttle body back on for the second time. The only reason I realised is I was putting one of the nuts on that bracket and went, geez, don't drop that down into the head. It's like, well, you shouldn't be able to. The rocket cover should be on. Righto. Pull back together. I'll see if it's going to run. I don't know why I'm squatting down looking at it. Like, I'm not going to poke the bear and stick another valve, so I'll just leave it at that. It's running again. Oil change in the morning, along with a heap of other shit. Beer time. Look, I'm not going to say I'm disappointed about today, but I did want to get it washed down and I haven't done that. But look, buffed up, sanded down, primed, disassembled, the bars are off it. But I think that does sort of remind me how time consuming paintwork is. Maybe that's why I don't do a lot of it. I do a lot of patina stuff because you can do it in a weekend. But that was more or less, other than the buffing, that was all day sanding and priming, and I've still got the bars to go. I don't hate this colour, I might add. It's growing on me, and I think with the right stance it's going to look pretty cool. The one thing I guess on my side with this one is I didn't have a lot of damage to contend with. I found those couple little dents on the top, and that's another time consuming part of paintwork. If you've got a lot of damage to do, you'll spend the whole day repairing a panel before you even get to prime it, so it's another dimension altogether. And if you are into that, I have got some of that coming. My daily driver work ute, it's got a bit of everything. It's not just what we're doing here, sanding down, priming from deteriorated paint. It's got damage on one corner that we don't ever speak of how it happened. It's just there. And so there's going to be metal work, body filler work, primer work, and I mean high build primer work, not surfacer like I've done here. Anyway, something a bit different. We haven't done a lot of paint work here, and this will definitely be different, so I'll see you in the morning. So believe it or not, it's actually 2.5 days later. Had a little bit of time off with Anzac Day and caught up with some friends, but I'm picking up where we left off now. With the plastic bars, I'm going to get them in primer, but I can give you a couple of things. Number one, mask up your molds so you're not damaging your mold. Number two, body filler is very good for filling these little gouges in paintwork, because if you go sanding plastic too hard with too coarse a paper, you'll actually start to tear the edge of the plastic and you'll cause more issues for yourself. So you should be sanding it with very fine paper. That guy is a 320 and it's almost, well, it's clogging a little bit, so it's almost too coarse. And that's what I mean by just filling little marks with body filler, and then I'll just sand that back out. And of course I'm just going to go right the way along there, sand that down and prime it. Any little repairs on the side of that bar as well. And all these little scratches that I'm saying, you might want to whack a bit of body filler in them. Primer won't fill them. If you just paint it over that, the more you tried to fill them, the heavier you put it on, you're actually only causing yourself more troubles down the track. Because when you sand that, it's going to sink back over time, especially if you're going to prime it today and paint it in a day or two. The car itself, by the time we get to it tomorrow, that'll be the day 4 since I've primed it. This guy is only going to get the 2 days, today and tomorrow. So I'm going to try and make this as smooth as I can and just put on a light coat of primer. I just went along with little bits of tape to just remind me so I didn't get lost where I had to come back to with a little bit of body filler. Just fill up the scratches and gouges. If you go sand them too deep, as I say, they'll start to go furry. So you're actually better off just roughing them up, just pulling a little bit of body filler into them. That one was a disgrace, but whatever. Righto, let me bring you up to speed. I've now sanded 400 around the areas that need priming, and out wider I've then sanded with 800 and then Scotch Brighted the rest of the bar. So I'm not going to only mask this, I'm not going to mask around anything, and just spot prime, because knowing that if you come out a little wider than your 400 area, you're just going to go into where it's sanded with 800 or Scotch Bright. So I can essentially just spot prime parts of that bar and it's going to stick. So that's the bars ready for priming. Then I'm going to get into sanding the primer on this guy. We're going to use an 800 wet paper. I'm not blocking this guy because there's no repairs that was done. There are only a couple of repairs on that roof, and I'll give them a little block with maybe 320 and then a light hand rub over the top of them. And we're going to rub with our 800 out to the edge. Reason being, the 800 you can clear over without putting paint on it, and it will just show the original color. The reason you're doing the primer with an 800 is fine metallics like these colors. If you do it any coarser, like a 600 or a 400, the metallic can actually sit in those scratches and show up scratches. So that is a P800. That's that guy there. Okay, with solid colors like reds or whites, you can use a 600. Sometimes you can get cheeky and go a bit coarser, because there's no metallic to sit in the scratches. If you see little scratches like that, sometimes the metallic's that fine, it can sit awkwardly in those scratches and it can show up those scratches. So everywhere's getting it done with 800, and then we're going to wash this thing within an inch of its life. The reason I stress washing it so bad is anything that's under here like dirt and dust, your masking's not going to stick, so you need to get that perfectly clean. I don't care whether you're doing it inside a booth or outside a booth, you need to get all the dust and that on it, because if your masking doesn't stick to that edge or that edge, that dust is coming out, and if it's coming out with the compressed air, it's probably going to land right there. So irrespective of we're doing it in the driveway or in a spray booth, you need to wash the thing within an inch of its life, and trust me, this one needs it. So spot prime the bars, sand down these panels, get it washed. Let's get into it. Halfway through hand rubbing, and I just want to show you exactly why we guide coat again. So if you remember, there was little repairs, right? I blocked the little repairs and then you re-guide coat, and that's why I've hand rubbed this. You'll see where there's still guide coat there, you see it? And you'll see it in bands, right? That's why you re-guide coat. So my block has had something underneath it, whether it be a tiny little fragment of dirt, and if you didn't re-guide coat, you would miss that scratch. But guess what? Your metallic wouldn't. The metallic would sit in that and it'd be as plain as day. So re-guide coat in between blocking and hand rubbing. Another one I've got for you is, if you're rubbing along your edges, get a body filler spatula or something like that, and then just get your paper and rub along your edge that way, just to hold your rubber back so you can get right down into that edge. So I guess the only wet rubbing tip I can give you is get an old chamois, and I've got a bucket at my feet, and then just start rubbing. I know these days everyone wants to use machine sanders and all the rest of it. I still kind of like doing it by hand, you know, until your shoulder locks up and your bicep expands to the point where it wants to explode. Get the full experience. So I know I had a bit of a bitch about this yesterday, but time consuming. I know why I don't do a lot of paintwork, it's crazy. But anyway, that was all day just prepping the primer on the bars and the top panels. Oh, I lied to you a little bit. Early this morning I did pressure clean those seats. I pulled the seats out, got them pressure cleaned just so they can start drying, because I want them to have a good solid couple of days. So from here obviously we've got painting to do, then we can move on to getting it to sit better. And that primer, I can tell you, it was hard to rub, which sounds like a bad thing, but it's actually not. The harder the primer, the better the base it is you're painting over, if that makes sense. But yeah, it took some time, I guess is what I'm bitching about. It took time. And even now, you look at the edges of the bonnet where I'm going to blend that colour into, and there's a couple little marks and stone chips, but you got to go, where do I pull up? I'll show you. You'll see here there's one good stone chip there, and you're like, well, if you've come this far, why didn't you just do that? But you remember, I don't have the facilities to colour match, and that colour's not perfect. So if I come right to here with primer, I've got to bring the paint over to blend it in. And then if you're going to do that guard, there's a couple of scratches and some damage there. Do you do that door? And then where do you stop? You end up in a full respray. So you've got to pull up somewhere, and I'm choosing to just do the worst panels, which is bonnet, roof, boot, the bumper bars to go along the front because they were absolutely shagged, and stop there. Even if I've got to brush touch that one stone chip later. There is others, but that's just the obvious one. There's a couple little marks there, but anyway. So I've got to draw the line, because at the minute this is a cheap car and I want to keep it that way. If I throw more time, as time consuming as that already was, but if I threw more time at trying to do both sides, respray the car, then you're still nitpicking it. The bars aren't perfect. They could use some more tweaking, so I'm better off just pulling up there and just having it nice, shiny and drivable, and still being a cheap car. Anyhow, in the morning, it's just pressure clean. Just got to pressure clean everything, get as clean as we can get it, and get ready for masking. Then the fun bit, we'll chuck some colour on. I'll see you in the morning. So today's paint day. Not that it really looks like a painting day, it's a bit overcast, but it's not going to rain, so humidity's not really a drama, but there's not a breath of wind, and so I'm going to be okay, I think, doing these guys out here. And if the sun pokes its head out, I might even wheel the car out into the sun. It's about 24 degrees, so it'll still be fine in here, but I would like the sun just to speed up the drying, so we'll see what comes of it. For now, we'll start masking that. So masking is one thing that can really make or break you. It can make you look very, very amateur, or it can make you look very, very professional, depending on how you approach it. I'm just running 2-inch tape around the perimeter of the boot, then we'll shut it and mask down off it. But things like these window rubbers, there's a couple of different ways you can do them. I've just got wax and grease on a rag there, and just literally pull your rubber back. I'll show you, come here. So just with wax and grease on a rag, you're just pulling the rubber back, wedging your clean rag down there and just running it along, so you're actually cleaning the back side of that rubber there. Then you can jam tape down it. So get your tape and now push it down into the back of the rubber. If you see, that's down behind the rubber. Stick it to the rubber and then pull it back away from the car and stick the whole thing down. So you see there, you've now created a gap here. So now when your paint goes down behind, it's not sitting on the edge of the rubber and it's not going to bridge across the gap. So you can just do that. Or on the front one, you could also use something like a cord or a string, and all you do is get a little pick, lift the rubber, and then see you're pushing the cord in behind, and that'll just sit that rubber up. So when you come to mask that, you mask right to the edge of the rubber, but it's still the paint gets down in behind there like that, so you can get right to your edge, but the rubber's a long way away from the paint, so it won't bridge across. Just so you're not having a hard line or paint edges all along your rubber there. And try and keep your masking as neat as you possibly can, so you're not sort of trapping dirt and dust in folds and stuff like that. That's why washing the car is so important. Get all the dust out of the cracks, because it's just going to blow out onto your job. That's actually another reason I actually don't mind painting outside. If there is a gentle breeze, fair enough, but when you're in here and you start circulating a bit of air pressure around, sometimes you can find rafters, say the posts, they'll all have dust, and once you start moving a bit of air around, it all comes out. If the sun doesn't pop its head out, I'll do it in here, but I might just drop the air pressure a fraction. In around little edges and things like that where you're getting your tape in, use one of these guys. And these, because I need my 4 eyes these days. I can't damn see. Okay, so due to a tremendous lack of planning, I've ran out of paper, so now I've got to use this plastic. This is specific masking plastic, but I don't like it. The reason I don't like it is it creates a lot of static. See how it's clinging to the car? Well, the static it creates also attracts dust, and dust sticks to it. So I guess we'll see. It might have just took a turn for the worse. That's another thing I don't like about plastic too. You can't really see little holes. Anyway, we'll see how we go. Yes, that was a major error. Run out of masking tape when you're masking. Good one. And as sketchy as that looks, I've actually zip tied the milk crate to the stand to lift the bar up, because it was that long, it was basically touching the ground, so that I can get under this edge with the colour and get around the bar. I've just got to have him jacked up. Righty, bars are masked up, car's masked up, we are ready to roll. So next step is wax and grease remover, or prep sole. So we're just going on with one rag, off with the other rag. I guess one thing that's probably overlooked sometimes is make sure your gun's clean. I don't mean externally, I mean in your pot, in the setup. Make sure he's clean, because otherwise you're just spraying chunks of your last paint job all over your new one. And I'm going to start with, if you remember, I halved the cover. I'm going to start, just so I don't run out of the somewhat matched colour. Start with that guy. First coat will be that blue. Beautiful. Righto. And this is the bit where we slow the hell down. And I don't mean when you're straining it. I mean when you're about to put your first coat on. Calm down, slow up, have a look around the masking. Because after this point, it's a point of no return. So this is a tack rag. Just wipe gently over the whole panel, just to get any lint off it. Plastic again creates static electricity, so it's nice just to gently wipe over him. So just check your fan. I don't need a lot of air pressure, and initially we're not going to paint the whole bar, okay? We're going to stay away from this bit for now, because that's the bit that's up against the guard. So I'm just going to do a first coat, and don't try and cover it in one coat. Just going to do the first coat over my primed areas. So same again, I'm just going to give him a quick tack rag. And the one positive I can give you for doing it inside is you've got the fluoros, so you can you get a better visual of actually the paint going on. Sometimes when you're doing it outside, you get a lot of glare and you can't actually see exactly the paint going on. That's not that important in the base coat, but it's really important in the clear. The other thing is, you'll be able to see here, remember I'm going to stay away from this edge for the first couple of coats, right? So you'll see my blue will come to about there just to cover my primer edge, and then we'll flick the colour out later just to blend that transition, that colour transition. Again, don't try and cover it in one coat. And you'll see exactly there what I'm talking about. I'm pulling up right on that edge, and I'll probably do that for 2 coats, and then on your last one of your blue, you're just flicking it. And so it transitions that difference in colour. You can see that now. That's a lot redder than that blue there. Anyway, we'll let that tack off. So if you see that sort of, it's still see-through, okay? You can still see it. It's blotchy, it's not covered, and it's tacking off, so it's going to that eggshell type of finish. And again, you'll see how I haven't gone right out to that edge. That's that transition of colour. We'll get to that. But anyway, first coat, all's well. I'm going to be fairly regimental on my drying in between coats time. And reason being, I'm using a fairly fast drying 2-pack clear. And we'll get back to that in a second. If you keep recoating your base coat, you get your base coat finished and it hasn't perfectly tacked off in between each coat, then you put your 2K clear over the top, you're actually going to trap in solvents that are still trying to evaporate. You might not see a difference today, but tomorrow it's going to start to dull off where the solvents are trying to come through the clear coat. So you get things like solvent pop. As I said, it'll dull off because of the solvents try to get out of it. Solvent pop's probably the worst of it. It's when it actually leaves little blisters. Going back to the 2K clear coat, okay? There's going to be that one guy that says you can't put 2-pack clear coat over a 1K primer. Well, you can. I wouldn't put 2K clear coat over an acrylic primer. Some 1Ks are acrylic based. That's where you've got to be a bit sharp on your technical data sheets. This one's actually a epoxy, and if you really want to get real technical, it's a PVB modified epoxy. Look it up, I'm not going to go into it, but this 1K, like I said when I was rubbing it, it was hard to rub. So this is about as hard as you're going to get without going 2-pack. And the other thing I'll say to reiterate, you can put 2-pack clear or 2-pack top coats over 1K primer, is because that base coat is a 1K. There's no hardener in it, so technically it's a 1 component. It is a 1 component that's compatible, and that's what I've done with the primer. It's also a compatible 1K component. So anyway, no one actually asked that. I just sort of throw it in there. I've got 15 minutes to wait. Second coat, I waited 25 minutes. So that second coat, you now see it's not as transparent. Still looks a little patchy, but it's dulled off like eggshell again. And we're ready for our third. That's been 22 minutes. So I'm leaving it longer rather than shorter period and rushing it, because like I said, if I trap solvents in it, it's all going to turn to shit. Just the real gentle transition into that other colour right there. So there's basically no blue down this very edge, but it just flicks it in just to hide that transition. Same with that side. And on the boot as well, if you see, I've flicked the blue and you can see there's blue there, but just a very, very faint transition. And again there, geez, I've banged on about that for a bit, huh? But it's pretty important. And yeah, I know I probably have banged on about that a fair bit, but it is super important because you may as well have painted it a different color if you paint it edge to edge and you unmask it and it's like, well, that is nothing like that. So if you do want to blend it in or hide it, that's how to do it. Anyway, 20 minutes, maybe a little longer, just to make sure. That's what I'd call, say, 3.5 coats. That last coat was not heavy. None of them were heavy, but the last coat was a little bit thinner, and it's just to get that colour out into that edge. And we'll mix up some clear and clear it. So the clear I'm using is just a 3:1, and I'm going to reduce it a little bit more than you'd probably think. Probably going to put about 15% reducer in it, just because I want this just to flow out a little bit. I don't want to have to bash it on, you know. The harder you try and put your clear coat on, the more chance you've got of problems like excess build, solvent pop, runs. That could be a good one. Hang one off the front of the bonnet like a curtain. If it's a little thinner, get back a little bit and just let it flow itself. Don't bash at it, don't force it. So I've mixed up my 3:1 clear coat, and that's 3 parts clear, 1 part hardener, and I've just put the reducer in it. I haven't mixed enough to do the whole thing. The reason being, if you mix up the whole amount you think you'll need and you've got it wrong, you've wasted the clear. It's going to go hard. So I'll get a guide on my first 2 coats of exactly how much I'm going to need, and then I'll know the extra to mix up for my 3rd coat. If I do one. If it looks really good after 2, I might just leave it alone. Anyway, let's get stuck into it. Oh, one more thing, just for the record. Base coat wise, that was only a litre of base coat. You do reduce it, so it's probably a bit over a litre, but that's, you know, 3 pretty big panels and 2 bars for a litre of base coat. Those little vents there are very hard to get into without getting a run in there. Righto, so first coat of clear. You don't want to bash it on heavy, alright? There's two things. You bash it on too heavy straight over your metallic, you can wet up that metallic and shift it, and that's called mottle. Don't do that. Just put it on nice and even. I wouldn't say dry, but I'd also almost say a light one. Just let it tack and set up. Then your second one you'll get a bit heavier. I mean, that's not perfectly smooth and looking amazing. If anything, that's on the drier side of the way a pro would probably put it on, but I'm doing it for a reason. When I say let it tack off, second coat, it's less chance of running, all right? So put that one on a little bit light, just let it set up, let it tack, and you can actually hear how tacky that is. I'll give that, say, 25 minutes. And I think I'm going to stick to 2 coats of clear, otherwise I'll come close to running out. It's a medium solid clear, so you can get away with 2. You generally put 3. High solid clears, you can do 2 coats and happy days, but for what this car is, I think that's going to be just fine. 20 minutes, next coat, and I'll show you the finish. Just to give you an idea of how quick this is at drying, I ain't kidding. And that's in between coats. I'm still going to put another coat on that one. That's only after the first, but that's how quick it is at drying. Anyway, second coat, come on. Because I'm going to treat this as my last coat, I'm going to get my head right down where I can see the peel go on, because this is the one this is going to be your finish, okay? So I probably look like a mong, but I'm going to try and get right down, get the reflection of the light, and get the finish or the peel as close to being acceptable as I can. I'm happy with acceptable. Now normally this is about the bit where I get way too impatient and start pulling at the masking, wanting to wheel it out into the sunlight, but I'll just have to sit today. We'll just have to wait till tomorrow. It is beer time. That took all day. There's 3 days in a row I've said paint work is time consuming. It really is. It's really time consuming. Now, and yeah, there's a couple little nibs of dirt and that sort of thing, or dust if you will. But it's to be expected, and if that sort of thing really worries you, bit of 2000 grit, wait for a couple of days of course, don't go doing it now, but wait for a couple of days, a little bit of 2000 grit, just give it a buff with a buffer and some compound. I probably won't. Actually, I'm sure that I won't. Anyway, that is definitely good enough for me. It's got a gloss again, roof boot and bonnet look repaired, bars look good. I'll show you the bars. I didn't get every nick and mark out of the bars. You see there's a little nick there I missed and another one there. But as far as the gloss level goes, it's pretty good. And again, you'll see how I haven't put the colour up. That's where the guard's obviously going to be. I put very limited colour up there just so the colour looks right. And again, just nice and glossy. Like I said, be good enough for me. So in the morning, I guess all the fun bits. We get to put the interior back in so it looks like a car again. There is some tyres turned up today, so I've got tyres with it, and of course then we're going to get it to sit right. But for now, I'll see you in the morning. So I'm just finishing up unmasking. It's like unmasking a Christmas present. Don't get me wrong, it's not perfect. There's a couple little nibs of dirt and that we're probably going to buff. But anyway, it's good enough for now. But the real thing I need to do is get these wheels off. There's a lock nut on the rim. You see here, I've got a lock nut. I've got no key for it, so we've got to get them off. Because these tyres need to come off because they're really badly dry rotted. If you see all the cracks in the sidewalls, I'm sketchy, but I'm not that sketchy. We're going to have to get them off and get some other tyres on it. But I'm still kind of contemplating how I'm going to go about that. I'm thinking maybe drill a hole in the end of the nut and try an easy out or something like that. I might crack the other nuts and see how tight they are first. That'd be a good start. And then once we've got the wheels over at the tyre shop getting some new tyres, we can start on the suspension. We're just going to drop him down a little. Just a little. Unless I cut too much, and then we're going to go a lot. Because yes, I'm cutting him. So any other time I've needed to do this, I've just used an easy out and they've come off, but these are hell tight, so we're going to try this. That's gone on a fair way. Maybe put the car in park. That either slipped or I got it. I think it slipped. Can't tell if that's slipping or I got it. I don't know. I think I got it. Yep. Took me a couple of hits, but I got it. Righto, let's stop dicking about, get these wheels off, get some new tyres and get these springs out. I don't know if I'd really recommend that because that only worked for 2 nuts and I guess then it had stretched the inside of the socket. So I've actually had to use another socket and that's how you get the nut out. Alright, let's get on with it. So got them all off, and normally I probably wouldn't go to the trouble of putting new tyres if the tyres are okay, but check that out. Look at the stress cracks or dry rot. There is no future trying to run them on the highway. So I'll get these to the tyre shop. Check this out. Just removing the shock bolt cover, and the mice or rats or whatever have chewed it. Same with the other one. Just once. I'd like a car that rats haven't been in. But I guess that's the peril of pulling them out of a paddock, isn't it? Anyway. Now with those shocks undone, I probably should undo the sway bar and some other things and, you know, drop it down properly, but I'm not going to. I'm going to try and do it in 30 seconds or less just by prying the spring out, because stored energy likes to release in unusual fashion, and hopefully it'll release in my general direction, like that. Well, that's going to be easy. Famous last words. Yeah, right. So we'll just give these a little trim. I'm not going to go stupid low, okay? I'm just going to trim it, and I do mean that. I'm going to trim it, not hack it off ridiculously. They're obviously a bit of a progressive spring because they get finer as they go up. Anyway, we'll hack it off. I know I said it before, but somebody loved this. Virtually brand new shocks, Nolothane panhard rod bushes, aftermarket control arm with Nolothane bushes. This was somebody's baby. Anyway, I'm going to cut the springs. And fortunately on this one, it's got a pad, right, that fits in like that. But where that pad sits is actually perfectly flat, as opposed to the lower control arm. Yeah, if you see here, it's actually got like a little notch there where the spring has to go, but the top one does not. The top one's just flat. So we can actually have the end of that spring at any point. And you kind of got to be cautious of that, just in case it's got a notch at the bottom and at the top, and then you'd have to have that cut exactly where it is, or exactly below where it is. But this guy can go on like that, but I can clock it around as far or whichever, so I'll probably take maybe a coil and a half and then just clock that round. Like I said, I don't want to go stupid low. Disclaimer, I know there's a lot of varying opinion on cutting springs. If you're going to go super low, just buy springs, because the spring rate will change. You'll see an aftermarket spring, the actual diameter of the coil will be so much larger. What I'm saying here is I'm only going to trim for ride height. Whatever. Disclaimer over. And then just add a little bit of, nah, they're not cut. Looks factory, very factory. And then our pad's going to go back on like that, and hopefully out of the compression of that we'll get a little bit lower ride height. Until my wheels and tyres come back, I'm just going to chuck these on. As cool as they are, I love these wheels. Just to see if we've got enough. I don't want to do the shocks and that back up. Oh yeah, because there was so much to do up, a set of shocks. No, but anyway, I'm just going to chuck it down on the ground and see what we've got out of that, and see if I need to take some more off just while I'm here. I won't go any further. I reckon by the time you put a bit of fuel in it and they settle in, if I get down to, I have 80 mil, I've now got 45, so it's gone 35 mil. If that settles in 15, it'll give me 50. Anyway, onto the front. So onto the front, and I'm going to go super conservative up here. Reason being, with these guys, if you go too low, if you cut the springs, or if you put lowered springs in them too low, you end up with camber and caster issues in the top of your strut, and you've got to get adjustable struts and shit like that. I don't want to do any of that. I just want a little bit lower. I'm just knocking off the sway bar, and did I mention somebody loved it? More Nolothane. It's got Nolothane everywhere. Alright, we'll knock this whole show out and see where we get. So we're just about out. I've undone this top of the strut and just moved the brake line out. 2 big bolts there, and had to take one nut out, or one bolt out of the back of the caliper to get this bottom bolt out, and that whole strut should now come out. I say should come out. Whether or not it does remains to be seen. What have we got there? Yep. Oh, we're out. Oh. Didn't clean that very well, did I? Anyway, let's see what we can do with this spring. So this is one of those moments where you go, why do women live longer than men? That's easy, because men do sketchy shit like this. Two clearly isn't enough, so let's put some more on it. Have I ever mentioned I hate spring compressors? But yet here we are. And that's right, I didn't show you how I cut it, because that's one you don't need to learn. Never do that. I probably should explain that one, just in case you did have a crack at it, guess at it and get it wrong. But essentially all I've done is compress the spring to expose the bottom two coils, and then cut the section that's below your compressors, okay? Below the compressors, the bit that's not compressed. I took one coil off, and to get it out of the strut, you have to cut it in half. So I've essentially taken a full coil, but to get it away from the strut, you've got to cut it in half. So the optimum bit there is below the compressors. Don't do it. That's the simplest way, just don't do it. Now that's a manoeuvre that I recommend, not the other one. So this is what I mean, there's your spring compressor, so from there up is your stored energy. Well, I'm going to cut it there, right opposite that guy. Just there. I will tell you that though, on a scale of sketchy, 1 to 10, it's about like 226. It's sketchy. I must be feeling guilty about doing that because I'm going into damage control. Look, if you wanted to do it the other way and take the strut apart, there's also some shit that can go pear-shaped on that too. For instance, you undo that nut, that spring wants to jump out, so they're not fun. If you're not confident, get a pro to do it. Take it in and go, here you go, dude. And let them do the sketchy shit. So when I drop this down, it won't actually be a true representation straight away of how low it's going to sit. What do I have to do? So actually I have to go for a little drive and just, you know, try and let them settle in. Hopefully by then my tyres will be ready. I do like these wheels, almost to the point where I want to leave them on it. I'll just check these springs are in. How low are we going to go? Hopefully not too low. Well, the arms are away. If that settles in a bit, I reckon I'll be pretty happy with that. We'll go and bed him in. I love these wheels. They would make any car look better. And I've got to tell you, I don't hate them on this car. But I think the only way this model car or this shape car could pull those wheels off is if it had something to match it under the bonnet. It looks pretty racy, looks like it wants to go down a drag strip, but then you fire it, it's a stock V6. These came out with a 5 litre. If it had a 5 litre or an LS swap, then yeah, I think it could pull these wheels off. But I'm going to try and blur the line a little bit between new school and old school. This type of car you generally see with the wheels that were on it, you generally see a 17 or 18 or bigger. They were only 15s. And I don't really hate the style of wheel, but why I say I'm going to try and blur the line a little is, being a 15, I'm actually going to put a more of an old school tyre combination on it. Smalls on the front, bigger on the back, and I think it worked out to be a 205/65 and a 235/60, which is actually what's on there right now. Those ones are skinnier, but what's on the back is a 235/60. Anyway, I'll go over and get my tyres and you be the judge. Tell me if I blur the line any. Bigs, littles, on a later model rim. Maybe, we'll see. I don't reckon I could have guessed at that any better as far as the gap on top of those tyres. That's brought it down, I don't know, I didn't even measure it, but it's just a little closer to the tyre, both front and back. Gee, she needs a polish. Anyhow, let's get these rims on. Without doubt, my favourite wheel. They would make a Woolworths shopping trolley look good, I reckon. Just a little bit racy for this one. I actually shouldn't have done it like that. Actually, I should have jacked up under the control arm to keep the suspension settled. Just means I have to drive it again to settle it down to check the height again. So I think that front's still going to settle down, because I had an even gap there before with those other wheels from the back to the front, and it's slightly larger gap there now. So if that settles down another 10 mil, I won't be disappointed. And this is sort of what I was after here, that little bit of, you know, that little bit of sidewall, a little bit of belly, bit of width in the back, just for a bit of, I don't know, something. I will be honest, I prefer the other wheels, but. So today really got away from me, and I know where my time went. It was in those lock nuts. Getting them off took way longer than it should, but I'm not saying I underachieved today. We lowered it down, and I don't hate the stance of it. I actually don't mind it. If it drops down another 10 mil or something in the front when I settle those springs back in, that'd be nice. But let me explain exactly why I said those other wheels had to come off. Although I probably prefer them than these, I wanted to keep it cheap. Those wheels probably owe me 1,500 bucks, as opposed to the wheels that are on it, putting new tyres on it, was about $450. So I want to keep this as cheap as hell, because let's be realistic with this one, I won't be keeping it. It is way too new for me and way too shiny for me. I guess I wanted to keep it cheap for that very reason, because it will get sold. This is going to make somebody a nice daily driver. We didn't get to a couple of things on the list today because, as I said, the day got away, and that was polish it. You can still see buffing compound in the little scratches there, and that oil change. I want to do that. So buff, polish in the morning, and I think that's it. I think we're driving it. Anyway, I'll see you in the morning. Okay, so I'm running out of time here. This morning I've warmed it up ready to do an oil change, but the other thing I wasn't going to do that I am going to is I'm going to run the buff over this bonnet, roof and boot. I don't know if you can see, but when you're painting 2-pack outside a booth, you can just see a few little nibs of dirt there. I'm going to go over that with a soft block, and this is what I mean by a soft block. It's got a really spongy side one side, a little bit firmer on the other side, and some 1500, although it's upside down so you can't read it, 1500 sandpaper. So basically, this is not to straighten the panel. Everyone thinks of blocking as straightening panel. It's essentially, if you do it by hand, you can leave finger marks from the pressure of your hand. That just takes an even pressure, and then you just nip over all the little bits and pieces. I don't know how well you can see them in the light, but there's a couple there, which is commonplace for doing 2-pack outside of a spray booth. There's more in the boot. Big flat panel, you're obviously going to get dust in it, so I'm going to zip over it with that, as I say, in 1500, rip over it with the buff, get the oil changed, get the badges on, and that's it. I think we're out of time. I've got to wrap this up today. So just while I'm warming that oil again, this is what I mean. This is the soft block, and see how that now looks like it's got a little ring around it? That's because it's a little lump, and that is just going to knock those. It's not going to cut it dead flat, but it'll smooth it down so that it looks like that, where there's no little lump. And if that dries a bit, hang on, I'll see if I can dry that better for you. Yeah, as that dries, you can see how these little specks there, if you just flatten them off and then whip the buff across it, and 1500 scratches will come out really, really easy and really quickly. So I only have to whip the buff over it, and it'll then be free of little dirt and nibs and look like a pro did it, not some random dude in his driveway. I guess the main difference, if you did have it professionally done in a spray booth, you wouldn't probably be doing it like this. You'd have a little round block with stick-on paper, and you might have 1 or 2 pieces of dirt or nibs, and you just go around, do them, run the buff over it. Doing it the way we did it, I find it much easier to just zip over the whole lot, because like that little circle that I showed you, if you nip over it, you'll see the circle and you can go get that bit and then move on. So just really quickly zipping over the whole lot. For example, there's one I can see there, so you just concentrate on him a little bit. There's another one there, concentrate on him, and then you highlight them by just zipping over the whole lot real quick. There's another one there, so you just concentrate on him. Pro tip. So you can see how dull that is just from the light sand that I've given it, the scuff over I've given it. And what I'm using is a orange firm foam buff pad. The different colors are different firmness. The white's soft, but if the softer you go, the hotter the panel will become. And that's why I've moved the car. The sun actually came out. I want to try and keep the panel as cool as I can, and the compound I'm using is that. It was the duck's guts when I left the industry. There's probably better stuff now, but I still use it because I've never had a bad result with it. And I'm just dumping a little bit on. I guess this will just show you how quick it buffs up. You don't have to bash it. You're really not going to be working it hard at all, so block your ears. That's it, and you already start to see how glossy that is in that patch there that I've done. So I'm just going to run over the rest of the boot and the bonnet and get this done. So washed off, polished up, sitting better. There's only one thing left to do, but let's drive it. So first wheel drive, and it actually drives really good, but the brake booster failed, a tail light went out, and my demister stopped working, and it rained the whole time. So wipers work all right. I think the brake booster vacuum leak is now linked with the demister going out, and the tail light's probably only a bulb, but cars, huh? It's still better than where it was. This is legitimately from a paddock back on the road. Hope you enjoyed something different. Bit of paintwork. Water's beating on my new paintwork, but yeah, hope you enjoyed something different with the paintwork. I'll see you next time, and thanks for watching. Get that on camera? Because I nearly threw that glass jar at the Kingdom Come. That was close. I've done it the wrong way. I've done it the wrong way. Damn it. So this is not a high build primer. That magpie just got way louder just as I spoke. And that truck. Come on, dudes. Fill dense. It's literally struggling. Here we go. Here we bloody go. I'm really making quite the meal of this.